In today's show, we have another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracies episodes, and we discuss, are UFOs actually an ultra-terrestrial phenomenon instead of extra-terrestrial?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Tayo Boya. Tayo, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
Yeah, what the hell, Tony? What you gonna do, eh?
You're a little subdued today. Are you not your new normal, vibrant self? Do you want to reveal why or not? Is it too sensitive?
No, it's not sensitive at all. This subject has the subject we're going to discuss has made me very thoughtful about the human condition, and that's all it is. It's just that I'm in a thoughtful, reflective mood
Okay,
this evening.
interesting. Okay, am I in a position to ask you to say hi to our audience, though?
You can always ask.
And will you?
Probably. Well, I always do, don't I, nowadays?
You
So
do
yeah,
reluctantly, but hey,
yeah. What the hell? Hello, audience.
yay. Let's hope this episode has mellowed him enough that he does it without being asked in future. Here you go.
You don't want much out of life, do you? Goodness. Give a person an inch. What do they want? Hamburgers and cake? No. Wow.
Anyway, now in today's show, we have another of our popular Dynamite Conspiracy episodes. And today we're talking about, are UFOs actually an ultra-terrestrial phenomena? I'll repeat that because you may not have heard that term. Are UFOs actually an ultra-terrestrial phenomena? Taya, as you came up with this, do you want to elaborate for our audience exactly what that is? Because many of them will probably not have heard of that term.
I stumbled upon this in the cyber world, online world. I even forget how. I just stumbled upon it somehow. But I'd always been aware that, and I mentioned it on previous shows, I believe, if you recall,
I do, yes, but only
that,
briefly, yeah.
yes, I just mentioned it briefly, that fundamentalist Christians believe that UFOs, which nowadays apparently are called unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yeah,
Don't ask me why this
UAPs now,
UAPs,
yes.
why they change the name, I have no idea. Maybe you do, I don't know. But fundamentalist Christians, because there are examples in the Bible, I believe, of unidentified flying objects. I'm going to stick to UFOs, which is what word I prefer.
Yeah.
That these can be demonic manifestations of the evil of evil presences, so to speak. And to my surprise, scientists, and one of them is quite a well-known one. It's certain, I believe it's Vallée, Valee, something
He's
like
a
that. Oh yeah,
French
French,
chap.
Jacques Vallée.
Yeah, Jacques Vallée, yes.
Okay, so VALLEE. So there we go. For once, for once, I've actually got some facts
Mm.
instead of idle, idle speculation. He took this a little further and thought, no, these are not manifestations of evil, but neither are they manifestations of extraterrestrial beings. Now, extraterrestrial, for those of us who, like myself, love the English language, extra means in this case from outside or beyond. It's probably
Better word, yeah.
a better word. From beyond, terra firma, terrestrial, Earth,
Mm.
beyond Earth. So extraterrestrial beings are beings from beyond Earth. In other words, aliens. Now, this Jacques Vallée thought up, yes, conceived a notion that actually these phenomena were not extraterrestrial uh, uh, origin, but they were of interdimensional origin. And if they were piloted by beings, they were therefore piloted by beings that would be described as ultra terrestrial. Ultra terrestrial is interdimensional. So actually, in the literature, the word used is not actually ultra. So when I say literature, I mean the more, if you like, academic. Although that's probably going too far. I'm not sure that universities
No,
studying
no.
these things, but in the more formal, shall we say, in the more formal published literature, the expression used is interdimensional beings. That there are other dimensions. We're used to this three-dimensional space of ours along with time. So we're used to length, breadth, height, and time. It has been speculated, and I believe there's some mathematical speculations, which I personally, as you know, poo-poo, that there are several dimensions. And the thing about it is that a dimension, an alien, well, a being, or even just the universe that is contained in another dimension, in the extra dimension, would be unknowable to us. We wouldn't be able to interact with that dimension because we are three-dimensional, or if you like, four-dimensional beings, if you count time as a dimension. However, if we can have a perfectly flat plane, we could step down to two dimensions.
Yeah.
Perhaps other beings can step down into our dimension. And that is the basis of interdimensional or no, not pan, but interdimensional origination of these UFOs.
It it's an interesting angle because I've often wondered that,
I
and I've said
remember
it
that.
myself,
I remember
that
that.
whether they're interdimensional.
Hmm.
However, one thing that does always puzzle me is if they are indeed an interdimensional race, being, whatever you want to call it, why do they then appear as ships? There would be no need
Ah.
for the ships. They would just materialize or appear
Hmm.
within our realm. There doesn't seem to be the need for them to travel in a ship of some sort because they
Hmm.
would just appear. Because let's take this a stage further. So if we say interdimensional, then could we then look at things like angels or ghosts or fairies and the like, where they are not within our dimensions, but they materialize into our dimension and we
Hmm.
then see them. But these are quite known within many cultures. Angels, they're often seen, they're often depicted in religious texts. So are ghosts and spirits, but they don't travel in vehicles. They tend to just appear. Hence my statement of UFOs in particular. Are they interdimensional? Or
Hmm.
do the craft come through a portal, perhaps, which then qualifies them as interdimensional, but not in the same bracket as we would say an angel or a ghost or a spirit of some sort?
Well, the thing is this. That's a good point. But the thing is this. And the reason why this is a conspiracy theory episode is that there is a conspiracy theory interwoven with the legend, if you like. If you don't like, I'm sorry. But I call it a legend, with a legend of interdimensional or ultra-terrestrial beings. And that is that they are actually a race that is not necessarily, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not necessarily caring for us. It doesn't care for the human race. They are not beings who are necessarily friendly towards humans. They're not necessarily unfriendly. But so yes, they're not benevolent. They're not benevolent.
Benevolent. You can't say it.
I can't say benevolent.
Yeah, benevolent. There you go.
They're not necessarily benevolent,
So are they
But
malevolent?
they're not necessarily malevolent either, not in their purpose, but that their purpose, according to this conspiracy, and I have already shared a link with you, which is a link to, I believe, yes, it is a YouTube link. So our listeners, I'm going to share it again with you so that you know it's concerning this episode.
Mm,
There we go.
okay.
So they can watch that. And the conspiracy is that they are experimenting and shaping the human race so that they appear as different things at different times. That that starting that of occasionally they have appeared, as I said, there's a mention of a burning wheel in the
Mm,
Bible that I believe was Ezekiel who saw this. The prophet Ezekiel saw a burning wheel and described a burning wheel. And his description, apparently in the Hebrew, is quite close to your standard UFO phenomenon observation or experience. But the phenomena change because the conspiracy is this: that the reason why that Jacques Vallée, for example, was one of the people I believe who went this way, is that something that you and I have not noticed before, and it's new to me, and it's in this video that I shared with you, I believe, right? I think
yeah, yeah, you have, yeah.
that the UFO phenomena are often accompanied by supposedly paranormal activity. No, I never made that connection before, so
No.
it's news to me. But this Jacques Vallée or Vallée, whatever his blooming name is, if it's pronounced,
Yeah.
yeah, he apparently noticed this, and he's of the opinion that these beings, multidimensional beings, actually do not wish to reveal themselves for what they truly are. That they manifest in different ways at different times for different reasons. So, for example, there was a time when in the United States of America there was a very big. This is about what, the 1900s, I believe, late 1900s. No, sorry, late 1800s. There was a time when airships. I think it was two or three. What was it? Two people mysteriously appeared, spoke very convincingly about inventing airships that were defied gravity. And there was a whole bunch of sightings all across America. People actually witnessed these airships in above them. And several of these cases, incidents, were multiple viewership cases. But just as mysteriously as these phenomena appeared, they disappeared without good reason. They kicked up a stir, made everyone sort of excited and worried, if you like, and then disappeared. And I can't help thinking about our constant repetition of UFOs, the UFO phenomena. It swells up. We're all talking about this, and then it disappears.
Yeah, but to what end?
Ah,
This
well.
is this is the question. This is all very interesting stuff,
Hmm.
but I mean, what I find surprising is Jacques Vallée seems to be the only one who is talking about this as being an interdimensional species of chaos in a way. Those are the words that he's been using in the past. But there's no other prominent researcher that seems to follow this line of reasoning.
Hmm.
Yes, you're right. There are very few occasions of paranormal activity alongside UFO incidents, but they tend to be more linked with abductions as such. But there's not really many stories of spirit like creatures that abduct people.
Hmm.
That seems to be something fairly new. So I think we are dealing with two separate things rather than one, where we're banding all together all these mythical, I suppose, some of these creatures from the past, along with UFO and aliens, and saying they're all under the same banner. There could be some overlap for sure, but I still can't see what the mischief of these creatures would be, because he was saying or implying that we're actually sharing the planet now with them.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're in this, let's say we only live in three dimensions. They're in a fourth dimension and they occasionally come through. But for what means? It's almost like the scenario I give is we humans, we go about our business, and every so often we come across ants. They might be in the garden, they might be in a field, and we see ants. Now, we could put our boot there and disturb them, or we could just observe them, or we could poke things in the middle of the ants. But there's ants, and we just say, yeah, whatever, leave them and get on with it. Now, that could be a scenario if these creatures do exist in a fourth dimension. They see us, but they see us like ants, and occasionally they'll engage, but why bother? They're superior to us. They're sharing our planet, and we are in only three dimensions. So to them, if we're sharing the planet, although how we share it in a three-dimensional world,
Hmm.
where that works, I don't know. But we are probably not much of a concern to them in the fourth dimension. So we're only messing with the three dimensions, as would ants in a colony. They'd only be troublesome if you happen to be in that colony, but in the rest of our planet, they're not, they're insignificant. And this could be the parallel that we're seeing with these beings, not necessarily just UFOs or aliens, but others that could be crossing over into our dimension occasionally. I think that hypothesis is more plausible with things like angels, ghosts, um, poltergeists, that sort of area, as opposed to aliens and UFOs. That's
Well,
just my opinion.
well, the thing is this: Jacques Vallée didn't extrapolate his hypothesis of interdimensional or interdimensional objects and ultra-dimensional beings as far as a certain person called John Keel, which is John and Keel. Now, I've shared a link with you that takes you to a Wikipedia page to share with our audience, and they can go along and read about this for themselves. Jacques Vallée took it a certain what. Let me explain. I think I may have misstated the trajectory of this thesis or conspiracy. Jacques Vallée was of the opinion that earlier sightings of UFOs and their occupants would have been misunderstood by people from an earlier age because they didn't have our idea of space and alien civilizations, and they had never watched Star Trek or anything anything like that. So they were more religious and they had more myth-based philosophies and outlooks on life. So they would have seen gods, demons, fairies, angels, things like this. They wouldn't think of people from other worlds. And so
Because they
when
wouldn't believe there'd be other worlds, so it
no,
wouldn't
no, it
cross
was
their
beyond.
psyche.
It wouldn't cross their minds. It would be they didn't know. They didn't even know about other worlds. So that it wouldn't have crossed their minds. So this is where Jacques Vallée thought that these earlier mentions of angels, when three angels came in shiny, how was it said in the Bible? Was it in shiny garments? The
Mm.
two angels that came and spoke to a prophet, I can't remember which prophet, in shiny garments, and their faces were like this and that. They just thought, well, they're angels. Nowadays we'd say, well, aliens.
But
So this is
but
where he's coming from.
the difference is
Mhm.
the depictions of the angels and ghosts and things like that, they were never described in the manner that we describe aliens today. There seems to be, I mean, as far as I'm aware, none of the scriptures refer to angels with big black eyes and 5 foot tall and skinny and not humanoid.
Mhm.
That's the difference. Whereas, so there's definite separation from mystical and religious descriptions of spirits and angels, etc., that have been depicted and referred to in the past compared to present day. I mean, it's not like we're seeing a similar, objects or creatures or images that you could say, hang on, are these the same thing? No, they're quite distinct and quite different. Whether
Mhm.
whether the media and film industry have put that into our psyche because we've seen all these alien films that depict the standard grey alien with the big eyes and skinny body. So we now have got that within our psyche, and that's all we see. Even if we did see a spirit or a ghost, which wasn't really fully formed, but we see a bit of pareidolia and make it into an alien because of the conditioning that we've now been exposed to from films and TV series, perhaps. I don't know.
Now this is what John Keel. This is a an angle that John Keel has tackled. What you're saying, and here, let me quote from the Wikipedia page. So John Keel says, and this is a quote, I abandoned the extraterrestrial hypothesis in 1967 when my own field investigations disclosed an astonishing overlap between psychic phenomena and UFOs. The objects and apparitions do not necessarily originate on another planet and may not even exist as permanent constructions of matter. It is more likely that we see what we want to see and interpret such visions according to our contemporary beliefs, end quote, which is exactly what I believe you just said.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so isn't that
indeed.
amazing? So in his 1970 book, UFOs Operation Trojan Horse, he argued that a non-human or spiritual intelligence has staged whole events over a long period of time in order to propagate and reinforce certain erroneous belief systems. For example, monsters, ghosts, demons, fairies, vampires, mystery airships in 1897. I was telling you about airships, and there's a link to the mystery airships for those who want to follow the link. It's a really interesting story, and I wasn't even aware of it. Mystery aeroplanes of the 1930s, mystery helicopters. This ongoing conspiracy about black helicopters, and this is really weird. Anomalous creatures sightings,
Hmm.
poltergeist phenomena, balls of light, and UFOs. Keel conjectured, I'm having problems with English today. Keel conjectured that ultimately all these anomalies are a cover for the real phenomenon. So he believes that there's been a centuries long conspiracy that is being practiced upon mankind. Now, I take that, and what I was saying, I was a bit somber and thinking about the human situation and everything. Is this you and I have spoken several times about this being a virtual reality?
Yeah.
What if we go a little bit further, just a touch? We follow John Keel's general direction, but we go a little bit further, and then we say that the those who are staging this reality send and bring us various novel phenomena to play with, to experience, inject into the game of life. What
Hmm.
what if these things are just being done to us to make what would otherwise be a rather drab existence
In the
more
game.
interest? Yeah,
Yeah.
in the game, more interesting.
Hmm. That is a very, very interesting angle, and that seems to lend strength to the matrix or virtual reality
Yeah,
environment that we inhabit. And also that seems to add weight to interdimensional could be outside this, which is where our consciousness perhaps actually lives.
yep.
And it's playing the game, but outside of the game of life or this virtual reality, these spirits, ghosts all come in periodically just to spice it up a bit. I'm I'm a bit taken aback by that. That's
Yeah.
actually a really interesting angle and never considered it before quite like that.
And they could play on multiple levels because, as you said, our consciousness could be something that they play upon our consciousness, but they could also play upon our so-called virtual reality. So, for example, to see a ghost, they would be able to present to one consciousness. If three of us were sitting together, one of us might see the ghost because it's that person's consciousness that is being tampered with. But a poltergeist activity, all three of us would see a physical object physically move.
Hmm.
And the interesting about it is that we've all been very convinced of what we've seen, but we'll not be able to convince anybody who hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
Hasn't seen it, and always remain a mystery. So what they are actually inject, I don't know what the chaos theory that you mentioned is. I am aware vaguely of chaos theory. I don't know what particular chaos theory you've alluded to
Well,
today, but that would create doubts doubts in society, and these doubts would propagate and lead to, if you think about it, religions, wouldn't they?
hmm,
Because people will be
yeah.
trying to explain these phenomena to themselves, and they might create new streams of thought, exciting new streams of thought that go off in different unknown directions, and create a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Playful world, if we want to use the word playful, a more interesting world. I don't know. I mean, just take away all the phenomena. What would we have? I mean, just for 1 second, no ghosts, no poltergeist, nothing.
No
Seriously,
angels.
no angels. No, seriously, what would we be left with?
We wouldn't have religion.
No,
We wouldn't, would we? Because
no,
there'd be nothing to back it up or reinforce it.
and
It
not
would
only
be nothing at all.
nothing at all. Not only no religion, no mystery.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
No fairies, no mythical creatures, no ghosts, no poltergeists. So people would go, nah,
No
there isn't any
fables
of that.
even. I don't even
Yeah.
think we'd have fables. You know, the giants of old. What giants of old? Why is almost every culture speak about the giants of old? I mean, seriously, almost every culture, every society on the planet speaks about giants. Why?
Hmm.
Why?
Could that have been, are you saying therefore that these interdimensional creatures could have been or fabricated giants to make our realm interesting, more dynamic, more, just make it more, well, chaos. It's the chaos bit. It adds the intrigue. It adds um unsure. That's not a word for
Uncertainty.
unsureness, is it? Uncertainty. It adds all this doubt, and that then adds more fuel to the idea of it being an actual game. It does. If these beings or creatures or whatever you want to call them do exist in a fourth dimension outside of our understanding, but they can obviously see us and interact in certain ways just to spice things up a bit, so to speak.
I certainly feel that we have evidence to back that up. Now, I said it to you before and you poo-pooed it, but I'd like you to think about it again. The moon is 1/400th the size of the sun.
Okay.
Remember I said that?
Yeah, yeah.
And the moon is 1/400th the distance between Earth and the sun. That's a little nice.
Yeah, it's an anomaly. Unlike
That's very nice. That's why we have solar
yeah, solar
eclipses.
eclipses, yeah.
And that's why the solar eclipse is very, very nearly complete.
Mm.
Just perfectly so. Just enough to leave a corona. Right? Now, look, listen, you roll the dice.
Yeah, but that on its own is not.
Then you have retrograde planets. Like Venus, I believe, is a retrograde planet. It's spinning the wrong way.
It is spinning the wrong way. The only one in our
The only
solar
one.
system. Yeah.
And by the way, we have
Yeah.
I think we have 2 retrograde moons. Moons.
Really?
Saturn. Yeah, Saturn or Neptune, one of the two.
Has got two moons that go the other way.
It's got 2 moons that spin the wrong way. And I think, actually, let me just look it up properly, because this is the thing about me. I have these, I read them and then I forget the details, but it's retro.
But again, that's not a slam dunk. That's just.
Yeah, when enough of these things, when do you start asking questions? Enough breadcrumbs. When do you finally get to the witch's gingerbread house?
I think the thing that keeps me thinking that we're in an ordered simulation is the fact that there's too many things that are absolutely set in stone, like the speed of light is set in stone. Why is that not variable?
Well, is it? Just the other
Well,
day, we were saying that is it possible that light travels instantly in one direction, but travels with speed in back and
yeah, but the
forth?
behavior is uniform. It doesn't matter about exact speed, but it's the behavior. It's the
Mm.
same, so it's not slowing down at all. It's like, hold on. And then you've got the weak and the weak forces that make up the fabric of the whole piece.
Yeah, what you're
You
talking
know,
about is a well is what you're talking about has been noticed and is in academia as in the problem of the fine-tuned universe.
mm,
That's what it's called.
the
The problem of
Goldilocks universe
the
is
goal.
just right. Yeah,
Everything is just perfect. And
yeah.
if people want to understand just how minuscule changes would create chaos,
Mm,
how tiny. We're not talking about big, huge. Oh well, no, we're talking about minuscule little changes in forces, in certain forces would upset
everything.
everything. Everything
Mm.
would just become truly chaotic and random. What you'd expect, by the way, from a big bang.
Mm.
Yes. Anyway, I'm going to share I'm going to share this with you. The gas giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus,
And Neptune.
and Neptune.
You said
And
that without smiling,
I
but okay.
think I know. I think that I'm going to henceforth, I'm announcing this publicly. I'm going to be saying the planet Uranus.
Uranus, yes, I know.
Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune have several small outer moons that
Yeah.
follow retrograde orbits. This means that they orbit their planets in the opposite direction to the planet's rotation.
See, that doesn't make sense in
It doesn't.
itself
No,
because it should be influenced by its bigger brethren and it
exactly.
should influence and turn it round. But then again, our moon doesn't turns perfectly, doesn't it? That's why it's constantly facing us. So it's turning as we're
Actually, it's
turning.
turning in such a beautiful way that
Synchron
it's
synchronous.
synchronized, but it's synchronized in a peculiar way that we never get to see one side of the
Which
moon.
is the rear.
Which
Yeah,
again,
it's
dude,
weird.
you really, you know, I mean, seriously,
Mm.
if that was a film, you'd know that you have been set up by the serial killer. You would know that there's something very, very wrong. This is the sort of thing that the Truman Show that would have made.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They should have used in the Truman Show to say not true man, Truman.
Mm.
In the Truman Show, if you don't know what that is, it's a was it the
Great film, actually, The
what's his name
Truman
again?
Show.
The actor
Jim
is
Carrey
Jim Carrey. So, ladies
played
and
the lead
gentlemen,
actor.
Jim Carrey was the lead
If you've
actor.
not seen it, watch it. It's
Yeah, we
fascinating.
won't say
Yeah.
more than I won't say it in case you haven't seen it. But I've shared that link with you
Yeah, I'll
that
share that
discusses
with
the
the audience at
the
the end of the
retrograde
show. Yep.
moons. So so when you first hear about ultra-terrestrials, your first instinct is to say, "Oh, what a
Load
load!
of nonsense.
What
Yeah.
a load!" But every time we've spoken about UFOs, I've always had a problem with this idea that aliens would travel all the way to Earth and then not stop and say hello, whether or not they had watched American TV. I mean, if they watch American TV, that might just go, oh, no intelligent species on this planet. There's no point. There's no point. I'll stop you. That would
Stop
explain.
here. Yeah.
That would yeah, that would explain it. But seriously speaking, why would you come all the way? If they are explorers, that's exactly like in Star Trek. What do? We land on the planet, and unless it's going to
Disrupt the culture in some way.
yeah,
Yeah.
what they call the prime directive, unless
Prime
it's going to
directive. Yeah.
break or what contravene.
Interfere with their natural progression, because if we just turned up as a advanced species, it would change the dynamic of the planet. Like now, even now in society, if we genuinely had an intelligent aliens landing on the lawn of the White House announcing themselves, it would be a paradigm shift on humanity. We would change our outlook. Things would change on the planet, and yeah, it would give us a different direction. But that's an interrupted way of doing it. We have to find our feet ourselves. That's how the Prime Directive seems to
Yeah,
imply.
that is. However, if they did land and not share technology with us, I believe that the first thing humans would do is start acting together
And
as
trying to
a
take it
family. We would act more as a family. We would realize that our differences are minuscule
compared to
compared
others.
to the difference of an alien race that could conceivably come and do to us what human invaders, have always done to lesser technologically advanced people.
Mm.
And that might finally make us stop fighting one another and start thinking to ourselves, do you know what? We've really got to start working in cooperation, because who knows?
Mm.
So,
But that's where this other conspiracy comes in about whether or not some of the governments to unite the world are trying to release ever so slowly the fact that we've been visited by aliens. There are a different species, so that we as humans would unite. So your theory regarding that seems to be true. So they're giving us this information, this disclosure at certain levels, so that we start to like one another, perhaps. But that would also, we would certainly unite if it was a threat from an external force.
well,
But
they did in the film Independence Day,
yes, of
1996, I
course,
believe.
of
Was it?
course,
Can you
of
believe it was
course.
1996? Was it 1996? Such a long time ago. Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah,
Time does
exactly.
fly. Time does fly.
Almost 20 years ago. Anyway, or a lot longer, isn't it?
More
Anyway,
than 20. But yeah.
yeah, 30. That
But
was,
going back to
sorry,
this,
sorry,
so
sorry.
if these craft,
Hold on a second, please.
yeah, go
Sorry.
on.
About the American government and of governments, as you say, leading towards disclosure. I have this to say. Once upon a time, the American government, look, let me be honest. I've said it 1,000 times on our shows. As far as I'm concerned, the American government always tells lies. Always. Okay. If the American government published an article and said, look, tomorrow, or released a statement saying tomorrow we're sure the sun is going to rise. I would go out and buy candles. So this is where I come from. So when the American government said UFOs
Weren't real.
weren't
Yeah.
real, I had a sneaking suspicion that I didn't want to have, that UFOs were real, because they always tell lies. So I was, well, there is a chance. I mean,
Mhm.
against my instincts, there is a chance, more than a chance, because it's the American government we're dealing with here, that they really have captured
Mhm.
debris or whatever it
Aliens.
is,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
alien artifacts and so on and so forth. However, I was very relieved last year when it seemed obvious that we are moving towards an admission from the American government that UFOs are real, because this makes me feel a lot better. Because the moment they say that, I will know for certain that UFOs are not real.
So you're totally against that.
Whatever the American government says, just take it as gospel. That's not true.
Okay.
That's why they
That's
call the
one.
empire of lies.
Okay. Well, going back to our story here, I'm still confused about ships because if we bring, I mean, we did a show many moons ago now about Bob Lazar. Do you remember
Mm.
him?
Yes, yes.
And he was at Area 51 and he said he'd worked on some crashed ships. Now, again, coming from interdimensional space, why would you need a vehicle? Do you see what I mean? You
Well,
wouldn't need it to travel the vast distances we're talking about in 3 dimensions, which is our understanding of the universe. But if these are interdimensional creatures, why do they need a craft to cross from the fourth dimension into the third dimension? They should be able to just step through it like we would from third dimension to 2 dimensions. We don't need to travel to do it. We
hmm.
just do it because it's part of our dimension. So that's the fly in the ointment for me. So either aliens are not interdimensional, whereas all the other things we spoke about are, and aliens are just a part of this game, but within our 3 dimensions, although they could be far more advanced than us.
Well, in the 2 dimensions, we would interact with a 2 dimensional creature on a flat sheet of paper. We would interact. The easiest way for us to interact with that creature would be with a pen or pencil.
Hmm.
And if the creature came across the pen or pencil, it would move in mysterious and incomprehensible ways. It would
Hmm.
disappear. Every time we lifted it off the page,
Yep.
the pencil would disappear. And it could push
It wouldn't
things.
know. Yeah, it wouldn't know. That's
So
right.
so we could move a 2 dimensional object in front of the 2 dimensional creature. We could move it by picking it up and moving it behind it. And that to the 2 dimensional creature would be teleportation,
Yes.
right? And the pen that pushes it, if you or we could push a 2 dimensional object with our pen or pencil tip, leaving behind a trail, and that too would be like a wall or something to the two
Hmm.
dimensional.
Yeah.
So we'd be creating. So we'd have this spacecraft that it would. You see what I'm trying to say now?
Yeah. Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
have this craft that does all these amazing things, and it really wouldn't be able to comprehend what it was looking at, and its reports to others of its type would be similarly incomprehensible. So what we perceive as craft and so on and so forth,
Could be
it
a
would just be
proverbial tip of a pen or a
tip of a pen,
pencil
of a
in a
pencil,
fourth dimension being.
precisely.
Hmm. That's interesting. I mean, that could be certainly valid. I mean, we've questioned about whether there's a fourth dimension. I know there's Einstein said space-time as
Mm.
being some people have said it's a fourth dimension. Einstein hasn't actually said that, but space-time is a measurement. One
Mm.
word, space-time.
Mm.
And
Space-time continuum.
yeah, but
That's how.
but there is. It's just like what did what did he say? He
Well,
said
it's
if you
because of the space-time continuum. He used space-time continuum to explain his vision of gravity and why heavy objects, massive objects, bend space-time and
mm,
create gravity. Well, actually, everything creates gravity, no matter how tiny. But obviously, the effects are
I
more
felt
noticeable
more on the bigger stuff, but it
and
needs to be
bigger stuff.
several times the magnitude. It's actually the weakest one,
Yes,
gravity of the forces.
yes. But if you have a massive enough object, according to Einsteinian general relativity, which is I don't have the mathematics to challenge the man, but I think it's a bunkum myself.
No, I don't. But anyway, go on.
This is why we have black holes.
Yes.
And that's why light cannot escape from the black hole. So it's all there, but whether it's true, I don't think it is. But that's
Well,
it.
anyway,
Like I said, I don't have the maths to
the the idea
challenge
behind
it.
that is we're seeing some really weird stuff at the subatomic level, and some of it could actually be to do with a fourth dimension. So the theory of interdimensional creatures coming into our dimension,
Hmm.
we're actually seeing, in my opinion, some of those effects in subatomic particles. So, for instance, you know about entanglement, where you've
Yes, we
got
spoke
tiny
about it.
particles. Yeah. If once they're entangled, they're linked, you can split them apart, but no matter where they are, they will operate exactly the same. So if you know, you could have them a meter apart, a mile apart, 1,000 miles apart. You move one, and the other one will move in absolute synchronization with no delay. And that is beyond our understanding, but that could make sense if the interconnection actually traverses our dimensions and is in the fourth dimension, so that it's obvious. We don't see it, but it's obvious because it's linked there, as are some of the behavior of some of the subatomic particles. And that leads to something controlling our environment. There's some element of control or fabrication of it. And at
Hmm.
that subatomic level seems to add more fuel to that. So going
Well,
back to our argument of interdimensional beings, that sounds really plausible, and it actually seems like it could be true. However, I'm
mhm.
still doubting that all the aliens that we see or have seen are necessarily interdimensional.
That's a
They could
wonderful
be.
thing. That's the wonderful thing about a real conspiracy. A conspiracy, there's this quotation, I don't know if it comes from a film or from writing or whatever. I've loved the quotation for a long time. A conspiracy so vast, so big, so pervasive that no one will believe it.
Wow.
That's the best conspiracies are the ones that you won't believe because it's too big. Because according to John Keel, don't forget this has been going on for centuries. So when you say why is it that aliens today have got big eyes, big black eyes, no people, no whites or anything like this, big heads, so on and so forth. Well, that's because that's the way they want us to view them, just for now. And in 1,000 years or 500 years, it'll be something completely different.
Hmm.
And because the mystery has to be kept up, we get bored with the aliens, and we leave in our reality, we'll leave artifacts, drawings, statues of these aliens that will be discovered by humans 1,000 years from now. And then the mystery is propagated all over again. Now, what the heck were these people 1,000 years ago with what those, and it was a highly advanced civilization. They
Mm.
had aircraft that could fly from A to B. So they invented the atom bomb and things like this.
Mm.
So if they created statues of these creatures Surely the creatures must be true.
Mm. But we haven't really got evidence of them.
No,
Not not properly.
left as a historical archaeological artifact, it would seem to lend serious evidence, just as some people have claimed that there's a Mayan sculpture, isn't there? There's a Mayan carving on the wall or
Yeah,
something.
that is an
Huh?
alien grey, isn't it?
That looks very much like an alien grey. So that's that.
Mm.
You see, and we're talking about that. I don't know how many thousand years later, but we're looking at, well, surely this is an alien.
Alien, yeah, yeah.
Or the Nazca lines. Who was supposed to look at the Nazca lines?
I know. That's crazy. But then that would imply, see, that would imply something off-worldly because you
Yeah,
can't see them
you can't see
on the
them.
planet.
Yeah, for whom were they made? I mean, how do they even make them? I mean, people are very clever. Let's be honest. There, some people are just astonishingly brilliant. I watch I watch videos on YouTube. I think it's called Respect. I think it's the channel, just Respect, or it's a hashtag. I can't remember.
Mm.
And it's just people doing the most incredible things that you could imagine. So I could imagine maybe there was a shaman. Is that how you pronounce it? Shaman
Shaman, yeah, yeah.
who said, no, we have to build this to appease the gods. And he told people what to do. But I don't know if people would invest their time and energy pushing stones around to draw lines. And then the shaman says, yes, that's done. Let's go home. And you think, well, why did I just spend 6 weeks pushing a blooming boulder? I have no, if you can't go somewhere and look up and go, oh, wow, that's amazing.
No, but surely that all they would have needed back then is to say, well, this is for the benefit of the
Of the gods.
gods. Yeah.
Yes, I
Then
know.
people would
But,
have accepted it without question.
oh, would they?
Yeah, they
He
would have
says, if
done.
this, we've just drawn a phoenix. It doesn't look like a phoenix to me, man. It looks like I pushed a blooming rock 500 meters. That's what it looks like to me. And now you're telling me
Yeah,
it's a
but they
phoenix? I
won't
mean,
question it because the faith of in spirit world and gods and things that they didn't understand, because the shamans, if they were clever people, they could manipulate
well,
the people.
whoever did that could sell sand to the Arabs
Well, yeah,
because
they probably could.
those are the ultimate continent salesmen, whatever you want to call them. But
But
I
they've
find that
been
very
there
hard to
throughout
believe.
the ages, though, haven't they? So it's
No.
not anything new. There's
Hmm. But
intelligent
that's the
people.
only rational thing is that, well, they never got to see their creation, but they invested so much time and energy in it. And by the way, when I say push a rock, I mean these are not tiny rocks. I
No,
mean
no, they're
because
huge things.
they're still there. The lines are still there.
Mm,
Wow.
I know. It's bonkers, isn't it? But then there's so many of these weird things on this planet, and could it all be
Crop circles.
attributed? Well, could it all be attributed to interdimensional beings?
No,
Oh, but
the
actually,
non-human ones.
crop circles is a good one
Hmm.
because some people have reported them forming when there's been alien craft above fields.
Exactly. One of the paranormal phenomena that John Keel and others were talking about. And I believe you mentioned that there is residual radiation
Mm,
that in many, not all, but in many of these crop circles, there's residual radiation, which suggests that it's not a human hoax.
yes. But then again, it leads me back to what I was saying. If these are interdimensional beings, creatures, again, what you want to call them, why would they leave a radiation signature? Normally, that is linked to some technology.
Hmm. So their
So
technology, their pen, that particular pen that they used, uses something that leaves radiation. The particular pen that was employed, the particular craft that was employed to make a crop circle. Why are they making crop circles? Again, why even make it? Why leave an imprint if your intention is to be surreptitious?
it does it is odd. It is odd, I have to say. There's no simple answer. But then you see, this is why I'm still not comfortable with aligning aliens in UFOs per se with things like angels, fairies, trolls, ghosts, possessions. I mean, they seem too far apart in our explanation. It's not like they're sharing too many common traits, so to speak, because possessions, for instance, what's that all about? Why are some people being possessed? And if it is an interdimensional being, why does it feel the need to enter a three-dimensional human and make them behave and become, well, really, really strange?
Well, wouldn't it be interesting if it wouldn't have been less interesting if possessed people spoke gibberish and never said anything of interest to anyone, rather than possessed people in Western society speaking about Christianity and demons and things that would seem to confirm the Christian worldview.
Hmm.
But possessed people in Asia, and I don't know that much about them, they respond to Buddhist prayers and things like that. So everyone seems to be reinforcing the worldview of their culture.
Yeah.
Now, that could just make you think that possessions are not actual possessions and it's nothing, it's a mental illness of some sort. But there are some strange phenomena that occur with many of these possessions. I'm not. It's not one of my favorite subjects to delve into, really.
Hmm.
We're supposed to be doing an episode on the Pope's exorcist because he lived a rather remarkable life. But again, if we're going with the chaos theory or the game theory of just making things more exciting, just the more peculiar, and the only thing that it needs to do is that whatever phenomenon is being presented should be one which backs up or reinforces an existing mystery.
So it gives further evidence to keep whatever that
Yeah.
mystery or conspiracy or religion from dying off. It just
Yes.
reinforces it and
Yeah.
keeps it ticking along, so to
Just
speak.
yeah, yeah. With certain people and lets it fester and build in society and gives it just enough energy just to keep it
Well,
interesting.
the thing is, though, if that is true, why have previous past religions all died off? Because there was a period where people Greek mythology was the way forward, and then
Mm.
Egyptian mythology, and that's all gone.
Mm.
Now we've moved forward to Abrahamic religions that seem to be um, ahead on the planet, as well as Buddhism, as well as Hinduism, and so forth. So they've moved on
But
again.
Hinduism has been going for no, Hinduism is not moving on. Hinduism is going on for well, 4,000 or 5,000 years now. The Vedas were written like
No,
4,000 years ago,
but was there anything that preceded it?
possibly. And we've been around for. If you believe in the young Earth Christian view, we've been around for 6,000 years. The Vedas are about 5,000 years old, so not much preceded the Vedas and Hinduism, but yeah, a lot has been. I mean, you're talking about like the Babylonians
Hmm.
with their religion, the Egyptians and this.
Yeah, and they've
Well,
all gone. They've all
one
gone.
reason for the Greek religion disappearing, in my opinion, was that people simply climbed up Mount Olympus. So yeah, they got this like, yeah, they're no gods here, man.
Mhm.
that's
No, but
that's
but then again, so this interdimensional idea that they create chaos to keep these going, I think that's a little weak
yeah, it's
is
a
as
well.
far that as that's concerned. But
Well,
hey,
maybe there's a time and space, and they themselves have noticed that we and our minds we just get bored with things, and no matter how much, I mean, unless you actually you could as an interdimensional being leave an artifact that is inexplicable, that's got
hmm,
inexplicable powers on atop Mount Olympus. What do you think that would do for Greek mythology?
yeah. It would
You find Zeus's
staff or something. Yeah.
that, and you can't explain it,
Hmm.
and it does something along the lines of produce bolts of lightning. You'd be like, well, this is very, and it'd be, well, that's where the myth came from. Now the question is, who actually left it there? Were they
Hmm.
the gods? Are they, like that?
Well, the same applies with UFOs. Like, remember, we found uh, um, examples of stuff, the crash landing, the material that was left behind from the crashed vessel. So that's adding more fuel to that fire, far
Yeah.
more than some of the other examples, because there's not a lot of evidence, physical evidence left from some of the other mystical creatures and depictions that we've seen. It's more just word of mouth.
Or
Whereas
disappearances, because we
this,
did this in the missing 411 when we
yeah, the
discussed the missing
disappearances are
411.
very odd, but then that doesn't that, that I'm talking about more things like fairies,
Yeah, I'm
dwarfs,
saying
mermaid
fairies,
things, and
fairy rings in Ireland are
mm,
notorious for people disappearing around.
yeah.
I mean, that's why they're called fairy rings. That's why they're there, because an unusual number of people have disappeared in unusual circumstances near these places.
Hmm.
So what's all that about?
Well, that it is. I'm not saying there's not odd.
I,
It's just a
I don't
thing. It's
think
not odd, but I think we need
fairies.
more, more investigation,
That's the
really.
point. That's the whole idea. That's why they're doing it, so that you do more investigation.
Let's see. Anyway, we've reached the top of the hour here. We really need to wrap up. So, what's your summary? Are UFOs actually an ultra terrestrial phenomena?
It makes more sense than extraterrestrial, but I think linking it to psychic phenomena and things like that is but then again, I haven't read the man's book. I've not seen the data, so I'm a little leery about that. I don't not even sure that UFOs actually exist. I haven't conceded that they exist, but if they do, interdimensional travel, well, I don't believe in dimensions either. So do you know what? I'm going to stick to my fundamental that UFOs don't exist. So
Okay,
I doesn't. But if they did, interdimensional makes more sense than
extraterrestrial.
extraterrestrial. Yes.
Interesting. I mean, certainly food for thought. You've certainly given a different steer as to what these could be. Certainly, it's given our listeners a something to think about, myself included. So yeah, it's that. I'm not truly convinced
Hmm.
about UFOs or aliens themselves as being ultra terrestrial, but there are examples that they could be interdimensional, that they have used interdimensional travel. So they're not necessarily interdimensional creatures, but they've managed to utilize or harness interdimensional
Hmm.
travel. So they are still 3D like us, but they've managed to somehow circumnavigate through a portal which is interdimensional travel. So they're not ultra terrestrial, in other words, living in a different dimension. That's just my viewpoint. And
But
I think
that
we've got mileage to discuss this again.
that makes them extraterrestrials.
It does,
Yes, so you're
but they
saying that
don't.
you're saying
But
they're extraterrestrial, but they use interdimensional technology
yes,
or
they're not.
transdimensional
Yes. Not having to
technology.
traverse the big distances like we would believe they'd have to in a uniform straight line.
Hmm.
They are utilizing interdimensional travel by finding gaps or shortcuts or technology that circumvents the vast distances and allows them to get to A and from point A to B in totally fast or near instantaneous time frames because they're using a technology that we just can't comprehend.
That would explain one thing, because someone said, I'm not the one who came up with this, but someone said the reason that we always get blurry pictures of UFOs and aliens and so on and so forth is that they are blurry. It really explains
We
everything.
will.
Explains that.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll end it on that note as it is. Unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.